Ow.
Woo!
Woohoo! We did it without technical difficulties. Okay.
We did it without technical difficulties.
He's a masterful slam poet, an excellent deliverer of pep talks, and our D&D party's most killable monk. This week, for the inaugural episode of Auguest, Caroline and Eli welcome Ellis Wilkins-Haverkamp to the podcast. Woo! Ellis
Hello.
could write his thesis on Kylo Ren's character arc. Caroline couldn't tell Naboo from Tatooine if you paid her. Eli's first words were the opening scroll to A New Hope, and all three are total nerds. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Hey nerd!
Hey nerd! Oh boy!
Oh boy, you did something.
That's gonna sound so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. My name is Caroline, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
My name is Eli, my pronouns are they, them, theirs.
My name's Ellis, my pronouns are he, him, his.
And it's our boy! It's our boy for the first week of August. Ellis,
Hello.
tell us about yourself. I mean, tell the internet about yourself.
Hello internet, it is I, Ellis. I use nerdy subjects as a way to escape the boringness of regular life. And I
Don't we all?
have been doing that since I was a child. And I'm not ashamed of it.
Hell yeah, we have an escapist in the crowd tonight. That's good.
Yeah. One among many.
One among many. We're in good company here. And I guess this is the first episode of Auguest because it's August and we have a guest. And that's going to be our thing for this month. Every single episode's going to have one of our friends on for the next month. And this is our first episode with that. So thank you so much for doing this with us, Ellis. This is so cool. I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me. I love the Hey Nerd podcast, and I am honored to be on the Hey Nerd podcast.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Hey Nerd podcast,
Which I am on.
which you're on,
Hey.
you've listened to the episodes, at least some of them. Is there any episode, especially maybe the D&D episode, because you did get called out quite a bit in that one. Is there anything that you want to say now that you have the platform for yourself?
Yeah.
I guess the number one thing I'll say is that everything that was said about my character Orestein was 100% true, and I will not deny any of the charges. I think it's also kind of entertaining considering the way I kind of got the hint that I was going to be getting an upgrade as a character was because I listened to the podcast, and Eli said, all right, priority 1 is get Orestein a better weapon. He has to do something for the party. And I was there listening to it, and I went, well, can't wait for Saturday when we campaign next.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And then, Orestein did get a better weapon, so I succeeded on that front.
Yeah.
My rolls are still famously bad sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, mine are too. It's just a thing. It's just luck of the dice.
that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how, Eli, you were just kind of like very coded, but like kind of a subtle, just like, you have anything to say to defend yourself? And Ellis was like, I have nothing.
You were right.
You're correct. I have no defense.
I plead guilty.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's great, though. It's great. Especially because we're doing a one-shot, and Ellis is, I think, the only person who's really specialized in combat at all. So we solved a really tricky puzzle involving a door by just punching it a bunch, and then our wizard set it on fire. It's very...
Yeah, that is what you guys did, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, it was better considering the way that I ended up punching the door did not completely shatter the door. It was this close.
It was
But
very
there
close.
was still that little bit of glass structural integrity, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta love it when supervillains are like, come see my death trap and riddles and whatnot, but then don't leave a key card for you to get to said death trap.
Yeah.
So, as is customary for this podcast, I believe we've gotten a little off track. So the Brendan question for this week, if I can scroll up to it quick enough, oh boy, is...
Oh boy.
It's the summer months now, so if you were an ice cream truck treat, which one would you be?
I will cede to Elsie go first. I just like how you say it's the summer months now, as if it hasn't been summer the entire time we've been doing this podcast.
Shh. It's... whatchamacallit, the dog days of summer, they're coming up soon. You know, as they do, it's getting real unbearable in Houston. And you know, we just want to see a little cold ice cream treat. we don't have a reason. There's no way this ties into the episode. It just is a question we had that we thought was nice. So yeah. Does anyone have an answer right away, or shall I be the sacrificial lamb on this one?
I've got an answer.
Ooh. What would you be, my dude?
All right. This is just the first thing that came to mind, and it also works really well. I feel like those SpongeBob popsicles, the ones that look really, really good on the package, and then you open it, and it's like one of the most horrendous things you've ever seen in your life.
Completely deformed.
One of the like little candy eyes is kind of melted, so it's got that little like black tears coming down.
Exactly. Yeah, so it looks like something out of a creepypasta. But I'm feeling that, because staying inside and playing video games all day sounds good in theory, just like a SpongeBob popsicle looks good in theory. But then you get past that nice little film covering, and I feel like I'm melting.
That is so valid. Oh man, I think I would be one of those like popsicles that like is in a tube and then you like push out the popsicle. I don't know what they're called, but that thing.
A push pop? Oh no,
because that's candy. Yeah,
that's I don't know what those are called. I don't think that they have a name.
Yeah, they're just the ice cream truck treat that you get sometimes. And I don't really have like a super great reason for it, except beyond I think just like general vibes, and I've just also kind of been in that like melty place, but I'm ready to kind of emerge from that and like, meet the day, and all that stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. Like a sweet phoenix.
Mine is a specific experience, but when I was in New York City, I learned that New York City vendors have snow cones, but they have pre-packaged snow cones, so it's like just a solid ice-flavored chunk thing that they just keep in the freezer and then unwrap and give to you. And so I got one of these and I was eating it, and it has that feeling of like, yes, but also no. Like, this is a snow cone, but it's not a snow cone. And that's what I'm feeling, like, it's simultaneously the way that it's supposed to be and also just like an overwhelming sense of wrongness.
I love how by definition a treat that is normally frozen is something that we're also very unsettled by not being somehow fresh. I've
just never encountered a pre-made snow cone before. I think every time I've encountered a snow cone, you like watch them make it because it's yeah, but no, apparently you can pre-package them.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Oh, man.
No, I get it.
Yankees are weird, man.
Yankees are so weird. And I'm looking at, like, colleges up north, too. It's gonna be a wild time.
Yeah, my experience as a college student eating top ramen and pre-packaged snow cones.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, vibes, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was learning about Bryn Mawr College today. And... yeah, I eventually had to get to the point where I had to tell the relative who, like, had gone. I eventually had to, like, come out and just be like, I'm gay, by the way. Just so she would kind of know my full context for wanting to look at a women's college. Because that's important.
Transparency.
Transparency is important. Listen, I'm not saying that everyone who applies to a women's college is a lesbian or is interested in women. I'm just saying that as someone who likes girls, like... do I really need a whole bunch of dudes around that much, is my question.
Nope.
So yeah, I had to eventually do that, and she's like, oh, I think that, Bryn Mawr's pretty unmatched in terms of acceptance, because there were people who were out in, like, the 80s, and no one was out in the 80s. And I was just like, well, I know Smith is actually the gayest, but I also didn't feel like correcting her. So I was like, I don't really want to divulge just how much I've looked into this already, but there was a person at Smith who was like, so I had to ask one of my straight friends what the dating scene's like for heterosexual women, and, like, it's okay. But the fact that you have, like, a token straight friend says a lot.
Speaking of queer things in colleges, on the Common App, there's an option where you can, like, explain your gender identity to colleges, and I was looking at that, and I just felt the fear of, like, that seems like a risky gamble to me.
Yep. Depends on where you apply. I feel like University of, like, Alabama would probably not be into that, but I feel like the Ivies and the Yankee schools seem a lot more accepting. There are a lot of non-binary people at Smith, and the person in charge of their queer identity, like, stuff is actually a trans dude who graduated from Smith and then transitioned. So,
Nice.
yeah,
No,
it's
yeah,
not all bad, but oh boy.
But on the flip side, there was a time where a college rep straight up told me, like, hey, by the way, if I was like, yeah, I told them that I was in, like, essentially the equivalent of GSA at our school, because our school doesn't have a GSA. And they were like, this is a very Christian college, so maybe you shouldn't apply here. And then someone just straight up said that to me while trying to, like, rep the college, and I was like, You know it's bad when someone who's like, you should apply here, it straight up tells you, maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah, the person who's, like,
Maybe.
trying to recruit people is like, maybe I should... Then again, very Christian college, was this, like, someone at our high school? Because I feel like someone at our high school looking for the straights to
No,
go.
this was someone who called me on the phone. Do you guys get phone calls from colleges?
No, thank God.
Occasionally.
Yeah, it was like someone who called me on the phone and was like, hey, want to apply here? I didn't know what the college was, but I was like, vibes, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had that happen.
Yeah.
Fun!
So I guess I'm too queer for some colleges.
You know, who
Well, they're
needs
too
those
lame for
colleges,
you.
quite frankly?
Yeah.
Do you have a funny anecdote to share?
No.
Fair enough.
I don't. I do very few things, except that, well, I guess except for the fact that the relatively recently released Final Fantasy VII Remake has consumed my life, and it is all I think about.
Nice.
Nice.
So I could have come on the podcast and talked about that, but I am not going to, because we have something
Something bigger.
Yeah.
A whole galaxy away, you might say.
Yeah.
One that was a long time ago.
Yes, it was.
Truly an intellectual property obsessed with the number 3. Circling back to Christianity,
We're talking about Star Wars.
the
Yeah,
famous Christ
one of the-
allegory.
One of the most well-known.
I mean, yeah, Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, it does have that little tertiary
We have
connection.
what?
I mean, yeah,
Luke,
I've
Vader, spoilers, and
been
Yoda,
aware.
and that's the 3.
Well, I was thinking Luke,
Yeah.
Vader, and the Force, but,
That too.
you can do anything. Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan, and
The other one.
myself.
also Vader.
Also,
And Vader. Well, yeah.
Vader again.
Vader, the Redux. Yeah, we've not said it was a graceless segue, but we definitely did do a graceless segue into Star
Yeah.
Wars.
We didn't announce it, but we
Yeah.
did kind of just do a little, just very sloppy little backflip into what we're talking about through Jesus Christ our Lord.
Sometimes you just gotta go
Amen.
through Jesus to get to Star Wars, and that's how it be,
I mean, hey, sometimes you gotta go through Star Wars to get to Jesus.
You're right, though.
After thinking about it long and hard, after watching episode 1 too many times because we own the DVD, I was like, hey, Anakin Skywalker is Jesus. Hang on a minute. And I was like 12 at the time, right? And I was like, hold on. He doesn't have a dad. He just appeared in the womb. He's the chosen one that is supposed to destroy all evil in the galaxy.
Except,
That's it.
Yeah.
That's Christianity.
but he
Granted, he
didn't do that,
does
though.
fail at that.
Yeah.
And then he did do that, kind of. But then he didn't do that in episode 7, 8, and 9.
It's complicated. Star Wars likes to
Mhm.
shoot itself in the foot in the name of making a continuous storyline.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright.
So I guess now that we've done our graceless segue, now it's time for a little personal histories with it. Because having context for why we're talking about a thing is useful. I don't have a context for this. My brother watched the movies, got really obsessed. I do not know dick about shit about Star Wars.
Was when we all came over to your
Nice.
house and essentially, forced you to let us watch Star Wars, was
Uh-huh.
that the first time you'd seen episode 4?
No! Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I'm not completely uncultured. No, I'd seen the movies, I just didn't comprehend them or retain any information. Every time I watch it
I
again,
can
I'm like,
understand
huh,
that.
that's new. Because, we were fairly young when he got into it, and it was just the sibling logic of, well, my brother likes this thing a lot, and he's being kind of annoying about it. So I'm not gonna get into it on principle. Looking back, again, probably just one of those things that I'm finding out about myself is probably did have a crush on Padme when I was little, because it's Natalie Portman. And that is, all I remember, really. Yeah, my most context I have for it is that one, like, clip from Annie, the Star Wars parody musical, where Obi-Wan Kenobi talks about the Clone Wars and bores himself to sleep, because it's just so complicated.
Yeah. I guess my personal history with Star Wars is, again, it's the running theme of my personal history. My father.
Whoa, take a
My
shot.
father saw A New Hope 12 times in theaters when it first came out, and each time he dragged my grandmother to watch it with him in theaters. So, you know, I think it's ingrained into, like, his bones and his ribcage, just that opening monologue that was my first words. That's Hey Nerd Canon now. Yeah, so my dad is really into Star Wars, and when I was little, I think I saw, like, half a clip of when Vader, like, you see the back of his head in one scene, like, before you see his full face, there's, like, a scene where you see the back of his head. And I didn't watch Star Wars because from that one clip, my brain created an entire world that I thought was Star Wars that was, like, super boring and political. So I had this whole, like, incredible storyline in my head that was not Star Wars, but was based off this one scene. And because of that, I avoided watching Star Wars until, I think, 7th grade, when my dad essentially sat me down and gave me the ultimatum of, you're going to watch Star Wars, point blank. So then I watched it, and then I got really into it, and now I watch all Star Wars as they come out, and I'm, like, a big fan. But yeah, I had a whole, like, misconcepted other story of Star Wars that just came from nowhere and existed in my head for, like, 10 years.
That's the most you thing ever. Also, I love how your dad was like, I'm not gonna pressure my kid to get into mythology. Like, he didn't sit down and give you the mythology talk. He sat down and gave you the Star Wars talk.
Yeah, because Star Wars is, like, his favorite thing ever, so I had to at least watch it once.
Yeah,
but
listen,
yeah.
Kiddo, you've gotten to a certain age, you need to learn about, the droids and the lasers.
But yeah, I think it's important to note that the one thing I remember about this construction of Star Wars I had is that Darth Vader, in my head, looked like the bad guy from Austin Powers, and I don't know why, because I'd never seen Austin Powers, but that's just what he looked like to me.
Oh my god.
I still haven't seen Austin Powers, but now I feel like I need
I've
to.
seen the epic rap battle about it. Haven't seen the movie.
I've seen, like, clips from the movie.
Yeah.
In a lot of Watch Mojo videos.
I love how, like, your little brain was just like, oh, it's the boring old white dude. I don't need to watch this. Let me just do that on my own. Oh, that's great. Alright.
Ellis has to step away to take care of something.
So we're gonna vamp.
Yeah.
And talk about something else. I don't know. I'm still hung up on our latest D&D session, wherein Ellis only got around to punching the door, because it was after we rejected the idea that our wizard had of, resurrecting a dead man to punch the door.
Yeah.
I apologize.
It's good.
No problem, man. Welcome back.
It's great to be back.
And now it's your turn to talk
a-
about your personal history with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, believe it or not, when I first realized Star Wars was a thing, I was super not into it. Because my only ideas of it was, like, people in space, they can do magic, and they have laser swords. And me and my young, maybe 7 or 8-year-old brain thought that was corny as hell. So my general idea of Star Wars was just, this is stupid, this is for nerds. Meanwhile, I'm, like, playing Final Fantasy games all the time. And, you know, Kingdom Hearts. And then one day, because all I did for entertainment as a kid was play video games and rummage through the DVDs that we had in our house, put them in my computer, and then go to town because I had nothing else to do. I got tired of watching all 3 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and I thought, you know what? Let me give this dumb movie a try that I've never seen before, and I definitely will not become attached to for the rest of my life. And what did I do?
That's how it goes sometimes.
Because all we had was, and that's funny too, is the DVD that we had was just for episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which is famously the one people hate the most, next to Attack of the Clones. And I watched it, and I just thought, sometimes it's okay to be wrong. And I saw it, and I was like, okay, that's pretty dope. And then I told my dad, and I think the closest phrase to what my words were, where can I find the rest of these? And then I learned there was an original trilogy, and I was like, wait, so there's 1, 2, and 3, but those didn't come first. It was 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, and then...
Yep.
But I figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
We all do eventually.
super difficult.
Mm-hmm.
One day, I watched the movies on a website that is probably not legal or safe.
It's fine.
I didn't purchase them. You know, it was you click the movie, a pop-up comes out.
Mm-hmm.
You close the pop-up, you click the movie again. Maybe you'll see it in a good dimensions on the screen. And I just got enraptured. I started playing Star Wars video games. I made really horrible, terrible drawings in my several journals. They're bad, and I will never share them. Taking those to the grave.
Oh. But now at least someone knows they exist.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
Is Ellis deep.
So come at me, audience. Break into my home. Find my dark secrets. Please don't.
Don't do that. No, we don't.
Yeah,
Hey Nerds
don't
Podcast
break
is
into
not
Alice's
liable
house.
for any breaking and entering or robbery of Mr. Wilkins-Haverkamp's home. We also
Thank you.
strictly forbid anyone trying to do that. Don't do
As
crimes.
Ellis's friend, I ask you, please don't break into Ellis's house.
Yeah, just don't
As
do
Ellis
it.
himself, I ask you, please don't break into Ellis's house.
Don't
Don't
break
do
into
it.
his house. Don't mess with Ellis. Or
That'd be nice, because I will pelt you with my several lightsabers that I keep in a box.
Ooh.
Because I just became so obsessive that anytime I saw any lightsaber in like a Toys R Us, I was like, that is coming to my room.
Mm.
And I do absolutely nothing with them, and I'm not ashamed of
No,
it.
you know what? That's good.
Would you ever buy one
Yeah.
of those, like, really nice lightsabers that they have at, like... I know that sometimes the people who make them will show up at Comic Palooza, but they're, like, the really nice-looking ones.
That, Ultra Sabers and Saber Forge, those I've been just staring at on impulse for, like, 5 years. And I just think one day I will have $300 that I will be doing nothing with, and I will purchase a lightsaber.
Good.
You're right.
Yeah.
Good.
Nice.
That's how I feel about regular swords. One day I will have more money.
I feel that way, but yeah.
One day.
And now I look at lightsabers, and I look back at my stupid 6-year-old self, and I think, you fool. How can you not think lasers and swords together are the coolest thing on the planet?
The single most
mad.
amazing invention in any movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just... It's like a piece of metal, and you click a button, and it goes... And you do... It's cool. It's so cool. And that was really what got me into it as a kid, was like, whoa, science and fantasy together.
Mm-hmm.
And then growing up, I'm like, wait, a narrative and plot
A
lines.
story emerges.
And that's why I'm like, whoa, a story for all ages.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's like me with like old Disney Pixar movies, because when you first watch them, it's just like, oh, it's colors on a screen, and then you watch it when you're older, and you're like, oh, this is a meaningful story with like characters and shit. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Though Star Wars manages to be both a meaningful story and then also something where I've had the Star Wars paradox, which is essentially like Chekhov's gun. It's as soon as any big ship appears on screen, that ship is eventually going to explode. Like, everything explodes in Star Wars, one way or another.
No, there's no big piece of construction that does not eventually go down in flames.
Yeah.
You know, just...
They prove this in the opening 10 minutes of episode 7 when, like, 3 things explode consecutively.
You know what? And that's okay. You know, we have, like, the, 1812 Overture? People have been loving explosions for a while.
This is true.
Oh man, Star Wars explosions but set to the 1812 Overture would be great.
I'm sure someone's done that.
I'm sure too.
That edit has to exist.
I mean, I don't know, I feel like the movie that did it best, or one of the movies that did it best, and this is completely off topic, but the V for Vendetta movie, the final climax where he explodes Parliament happens over the 1812 Overture, and it's the funniest thing.
We love explosions set over classical music. And explosions in classical music.
Mm-hmm.
Which is basically a good chunk of Star Wars.
Yeah.
John Williams is just, alright, they said the explosion is gonna happen here, so let's just have that little crescendo.
Mm-hmm.
There it goes. Death Star blows up. Boom.
Kaboom.
Kaboom.
Fantastic.
I have never heard you say that phrase before in my life.
Oh.
Me neither.
Damn.
Sometimes it be like that. Okay.
So I guess for the uninitiated, aka me, do you have like any what's up with Star Wars? What is up with this wild intellectual property that's captured the hearts and minds of so many across almost 50 years now?
So what's up with Star Wars is purportedly, George Lucas had a 6-episode story that he was like, this is a story.
Mm-hmm.
And then before George Lucas was George Lucas, he was just a guy, and he was fully aware that, like, trying to pitch 6 movies as someone who never produced a movie before was not gonna happen. No work.
Mm-hmm.
Bad. So what he did is he apparently looked through the stories, and he took episode 4 as, like, the movie that would be the most complete movie, like, by itself, if he never got to produce anything else. Because, episode 4 pretty much follows, like, the hero's journey. You can do, like, a 1-for-1 from episode 4 to the hero's journey, because it's, like, the most traditional storytelling-y of all of them. And so he pitched that, and when that movie got picked up, it was originally just Star Wars. I don't think it was even Star Wars Episode 4. He just called it Star Wars. It didn't come out with the name A New Hope, because it was, like, the idea was this was only going to be one movie as far as he was concerned. And then it was a smash hit, because no one had ever seen anything like it before. It was, you know, people fighting in space. It was a bunch of, like, incredible work with puppets. It was just insane, and completely redefined the idea of what sci-fi could be. And then everyone wanted more Star Wars, at which point George Lucas became George Lucas, and now we have, a 11-episode, X number video games, X number TV shows, all kind of set in this one big, giant universe. But yeah, it's a story essentially about people trying to save the galaxy from evil people. Some of it's clearly a metaphor for Nazis. If you look at, like, the way that, the name Stormtroopers, but just the way that the Empire is clearly, like, this is, in one way or another, a World War II movie, at least a little bit. Because it's so much of it is taken off of, like, you know, like, the rebels and that Rebel Alliance and all of that. It feels very much like it's taking what happened in history and putting it in space.
While simultaneously being oddly biblical.
Yeah.
Sometimes, especially in, like, prophecies about a chosen one.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also being,
like, talked about earlier.
Yeah. Also being, like, cowboys in space, basically.
It's a space opera.
There's no singing, though. No one sings.
There's no singing.
Well,
Wasn't there a little bit of singing in the...
There's, like, choirs and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was thinking of the Christmas special. I feel like there was a song segment, at least at some point in there. Look, we were going to talk about the Star Wars Christmas special at some point during this.
Well, I've never seen it, but I believe that they did sing something. Yeah.
I've seen enough of it to want to vomit.
I love that. Let's get into the stuff that the obscure lore,
the obscure lore and the hot takes. Because Ellis, I know that you had a take that you really wanted to share. It's not about the original trilogy, but still, I feel like we should jump right in.
Yeah, and because the hot take concerns the sequel trilogies, episode 7, 8, and 9, directed by J.J. Abrams, and who's the other dude that directed episode 8?
Something
He worked
Ryan?
on Breaking Bad. It was Ryan Johnson. Him, episode 8, man.
The other director on episode 8.
Yes, and hot take regards the main villain, Kylo Ren. I mean, well, main villain in most people's eyes. It's Snoke, and then it's not Snoke. Yeah. And then it's Palpatine, and then nobody liked that. But
nobody liked that.
It was bad.
Nobody liked that. It was...
we can get into the rest of the sequel trilogies after you share your hot take. Because I have some opinions.
Yeah, I'll talk about my favorite thing about the sequel trilogy, and that is the character of Kylo Ren, Ben Solo. I love Kylo Ren. I love the way Adam Driver plays him. I love what they did with him, and I think it was a good performance. I mean, my thing is that people love to complain about Kylo Ren and say, he's just a Darth Vader wannabe and this and that, and I look at that and I go, that's exactly what he is. That's the whole point. I mean, it's not like the writers failed at making a villain because he was too close to Darth Vader. It was the fact that he wasn't close enough to Darth Vader that defines his character, and that was on purpose. You know, because they took Kylo Ren, and he's trying so hard to be Darth Vader in every way. In design, he's wearing a helmet, he's got, like, cloth hanging from his belt and stuff, he's got a cape. big red lightsaber. It's like crackling and stuff. He's got a weird deep voice that gets modulated by his mask. And then he takes off that helmet when he's talking to Rey, and we go, oh, it's just Adam Driver looking like he's in a high school drama.
It's just Adam Driver, man.
It's just Adam Driver without a beard. Yeah, and I remember being, not in theaters, but we watched it one time in my 7th grade history class. It's because our teacher was a big Star Wars nerd. And he brought his Xbox One, hooked it up to the projector, and played Star Wars Episode 7. And people saw Kylo Ren, and I remember hearing people, like, laugh. Because you look at Kylo Ren under that helmet, and you're like, oh, he's just a dude. That's not scary.
Yeah.
And that's the whole bit.
Yeah.
Is that Kylo Ren isn't terrifying. He's not the same force of nature that Darth Vader is. And that's what really defines his character, in being that he can't be the next Darth Vader while he's trying super hard to be. And when Rey says, like, hey, yo, I can see it in your brain. You're afraid because you're never going to be Darth Vader. He's furious. He's so mad. And whenever Darth Vader does anything, he has a commanding presence. Nothing ever goes wrong. And when something does, he's chill about it. He's like, okay, that's cool. You know what? Build a second Death Star. Let's see what they do about that. Yeah, nerd. Another one. Watch. But then, as soon as Rey goes missing, Kylo Ren has a big freak out scene. He cuts the chair in half. He starts just going hair. He goes ham on the room. Some stormtroopers walk by and they go, okay. And they just walk away.
I do not see it.
Because he is an angry teenager that's really suffering with identity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes him scary, I think, is that we as people a lot of times we try and embody the people we look up to. Sometimes in a borderline unhealthy way, and that's what Kylo Ren embodies, is that when he's not trying to be himself, he's trying to be someone who he can never live up to the standard to. And that's, and that's why he got such a high position when it comes to building the Starkiller base, because that was just Death Star Omega.
Yeah. Death Star, but larger.
And that's why he was so adamant on capturing Rey, just like Darth Vader captured Leia in the original trilogy. And when he fails, that's why he goes so apeshit about it.
Yeah. Just to clarify, as someone who doesn't know a lot about Kylo Ren, so, like, at no point, does he ever murder a bunch of babies with a laser sword? Because I'm pretty sure Anakin did that in the original.
That is Anakin.
Darth Vader.
Yeah, that's Anakin.
I'm sure at some point Kylo Ren was thinking in his brain,
like,
where can I find a lot of Jedi younglings that I can just slaughter? Yeah,
because, like, I was thinking, like, kind of charting, if he's really trying to kind of follow Anakin's life story, I think surely part of why he's failing is that I don't think that same ruthlessness is cultivated, or at least from what I can understand or what I have seen, because there's a special kind of messed up you have to be to murder a bunch of babies with a laser sword.
Yes.
And, like, also, the fact that he's, like, trying to cop his disfigured, disabled grandpa's style to be intimidating is really funny to me. Because it's, like, part of why I would laugh, like, when I saw that was just, like, so you don't even have anything wrong. There's no reason for you to not show your face except the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's so much like just trying to be Darth Vader, which is very good.
Yeah.
But I think it's also true that, like, a big part of, kind of in that same, like, the ruthlessness isn't cultivated, is that, like, Kylo didn't grow up under that same oppressive, like, the Jedi Authority was very oppressive in the original, like, in the prequel trilogy. And so I think, like, I think, like, a big reason he can't be Darth Vader is he didn't face that same sort of, like, underdog oppressed by this power system that turned Vader so bitter and angry. Because Kylo was always kind of looked at like, oh, you're related to the most powerful Jedi ever, ? Maybe. It's very unclear with Luke. Like, he doesn't have that same, the bitterness within him it doesn't have that same, like, overwhelmingly everyone thought you were going to fail, everyone thought you were unstable, everyone thought that you were a bad investment, which I think is what makes Anakin such this, like, it makes Anakin's bitterness so authentic and real, and then lends to, like, a very powerful and angry Darth Vader. But yeah, I liked Kylo. I thought it was interesting what they did with, like, making Kylo and Rey, like, the connected through the Force, like the twin souls within the Force. That was very cool. I think that they definitely arced that power really well.
Yeah.
I don't think that I think him dying at the end, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense to have that cost happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because, I mean, karma is still very real. He still did a lot of horrible, horrible things, even after being redeemed and going back to the light side. Those things didn't necessarily go away. The man did blow up several planets.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of life. And I think, as well, just kind of from what I'm hearing, like, it reminds me a little bit of kind of why a lot of young white men nowadays who, like, really haven't had to deal with a lot of oppressive forces are feeling really disillusioned and turning to, like, the alt-right and stuff like that, and turning to, like, it feels weird because it's like, well, they're not really oppressed, but they're disillusioned, and so they're turning into oppressors, which is its own whole thing. But I can definitely sense, like, feeling like I don't know what my identity is, but I have there's this historical event that happened in the past that I happen to be related to, and there was a lot of power and, like, grandeur associated with that. So maybe if I do that, then I'll feel happy? Question mark? Which I think is also, like, it could, like, kind of be a lens to look at kind of a lot of people in our modern times. What with the rise of the Nazis again. They're back. They never really left, but now they're worse. Or not worse, but, like, it's worse than it's been in a while.
Yeah.
They're very vocal about it now.
Now it's like...
Which is...
Yeah, it feels weird because it's like, you know, they're members of, like, a very far-right group. It's like, you can say they're Nazis. Like, you can... It's not a big political thing to be like, and the Nazis and alt-right groups are bad, actually. That should be an apolitical statement.
Yeah, that's why whenever, like, media outlets say, and these left-wing extremists, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool that we want to stand up to oppression, but what about these people who are literally just saying, hey, we're the next coming of the horrible, terrible military faction that literally committed genocide? Why aren't we looking at that a little bit?
And it's like, they go to the grocery store and they have dogs and they're just like us. I'm like, fuck off, Janet. The fuck? Stop humanizing these... Stop trying to make me feel sorry for fucking Greg the neo-Nazi. We don't fuck with Greg the neo-Nazi. No.
You don't know him.
So Kylo Ren.
I do think one thing that's interesting about him, like, especially if we're talking about the why he can't be Vader, is that Vader, like, commands fear. Mm-hmm. Both, like, in just the audience, you look at him and you're like, oh, I'm afraid. I don't like this, and I don't want to watch this anymore. Spooky then also, like, it's very clear watching him interact with people that he commands fear. Mm-hmm. And they essentially, like, in the first movie, they treat him almost like an attack animal. Mm-hmm. Like, he has a handler, and people look to this other person as, like, you have to control him. Mm-hmm. Whereas with Kylo, I don't think we ever really see that same thing. There isn't that much, he doesn't cultivate this fear from people around him at any point. Yeah. He's openly disrespected by, like, someone who, a comparable relationship with Darth Vader, you just die. If you did that to Darth Vader, you'd straight up, you wouldn't be here to disrespect him anymore. And so I think it's that same very interesting, like, he hasn't cultivated within himself that ability to just project fear.
Yeah. Which I also think, like, wasn't Darth Vader a lot older when he, like, became Darth Vader? Or, like, were they comparable?
No, he was, like, 20.
Damn.
No, they're relatively the same age. I mean, a lot of time passed between the end of episode 3 and the start of episode 4, but he was still in the suit. Yeah, he was still the commander of the rebel. Like, he led an army even before being Darth Vader, and he slaughtered people before being Darth Vader, and I think he cultivated that aura of fear, and then he got put in the suit, because Obi-Wan really did do that, huh?
Yeah, from what I remember from, like, that clip from the parody musical is, like, I loved him like a brother, so I put him in a volcano. And that's kind of... Because in the parody musical, Obi-Wan Kenobi's an alcoholic, and that's the thing. It. It's a great fucking clip.
But yeah, no, they fight on a volcano planet, and then Obi-Wan just kind of leaves him there. He's like, see ya.
You know what? The floor is lava, and you done lost.
Going back on the comparison of commanding fear between Kylo Ren and Darth Vader, it really is kind of... It's interesting to see how Kylo Ren demonstrates fear versus how Vader demonstrates fear, because when Vader walks in, as soon as he's in a room, everyone's like, oh,
everyone's like, oh shit.
It's like, fuck.
Okay, yes,
the principal just walked in to observe the class, oh shit.
Everyone's like, oh, focus, full attention. But then whenever Kylo Ren's in a room, everyone's pretty chill. And the only times you really see people being afraid of Kylo Ren is when he is in a room alone with one of his like lieutenants or something, and Kylo Ren just whips out his lightsaber and full on destroys a computer. And then the guy gets scared because he just kind of destroyed a very valuable piece of technology, and then Kylo Ren proceeds to choke him. But that because that's immediate danger. And then Rey at one point is frozen with the Force, and then Kylo Ren puts his lightsaber like 3 inches away from her neck. That's an understandable situation to be afraid in, because you got a crackling laser sword that's about to sink into your neck. But with Darth Vader, he just as once he's in your periphery, you're done.
It's like, shit.
Okay. Time to count my blessings and
I think it's also it's because like Kylo is dangerous when he's unstable and Vader is dangerous when he's stable. Like he can be perfectly in control of himself and still be the most dangerous person in the room, where I feel like Kylo, he only becomes dangerous when he like is not controlling himself. I think that he hasn't mastered like control over his own danger.
Which definitely marks an interesting character shift between Anakin, as in like prequels Vader, and Vader in the original trilogy, is because I feel like a reason a lot of people don't like Hayden Christensen's performance as Anakin is because whenever we see him embodying that Darth Vader sort of persona, especially after he kills the Sand People, is because he's still in the process of losing his Jedi self. He's still very much in an unstable mindset, and to me that just demonstrates how he's losing himself and slowly going into that transition. But once he becomes Darth Vader, he just fully embodies that character. He becomes the slaughterhouse big murder hobo that he's been trying to not be for the entirety of the prequel trilogy. So once he embodies that, that's the scariest thing. Because, I mean, when you think about it, are we more afraid of somebody who could pop off at any time, or somebody who is constantly in the mindset of, I will kill you if you do one thing?
Yeah, like, it is very terrifying. So would you argue that Vader kind of gets to that point because when he becomes kind of fully Darth Vader and he's kind of embodying this ruthlessness, that he is more like himself than he's ever been, and Kylo is so just kind of not that because he's constantly trying to be something he's not? Or would you say that, like, with Vader there was still definitely, like, kind of an identity crisis going on, like, this wasn't an innate part of him that was, like, fully present?
I think with Vader, the thing is that it's, like, he isn't trying to become someone else's image of him. He is, like, you see a full perversion of his character across the first 3 movies and the redemption of that same character across the original trilogy. Because you kind of see, like, the downswing of after the man who will become Emperor Palpatine gets his claws into him, and as, like, he slowly becomes perverted and turned away from the Force, he isn't, like, trying to be like someone, he is being forcibly changed into something else as, like, the failings of the Jedi Order and the machinations of this, like, very deeply rooted evil person pervert his, like, character. And so I think with Vader, what makes it so much stronger is that instead of aspiring to be like a distant relative or like an ancestor, he is just himself as like that self becomes perverted by outside forces and then redeemed by outside forces. Whereas with Kylo, he no one else is perverting him, he is trying to pervert himself, but within that he's unable to do that because, like, he's constantly at war with the part of himself that still, like, desires to return to the light side, or to the Jedi side of the Force. So yeah, it's like when there's the outside perversion that allowed for more complete, like, character shift than I think Kylo could ever achieve when he was the driving force behind his own evil.
That's so interesting because it kind of sounds like Kylo, in having more agency almost, and, like, more kind of internal motivators behind this, like, transformation or this persona, he's a lot more upset or, like, unhappy than Vader is, even though I think we typically associate having more agency and more, like, control over your situation and your destiny we kind of correlate that with happiness. So that's interesting to contemplate. So yes.
Yeah. I will also say, like, Kylo does have, as I'm thinking about, Kylo does have Snoke, but Snoke doesn't seem to, like, control Kylo the same way that the Emperor controlled Vader, which is interesting.
He's just, like,
also, who is Snoke? Where did he come from? What?
Where did he go?
Funny enough, he came from the Emperor, who is still alive in episode 9, because
I hate
Star Wars fans...
Dermatologists hate him.
This is 100% something I was going to talk about. The fact that Star Wars fans famously do not know what they want. We will never be happy. I can't speak for everybody, because I think I'm part of the minority of Star Wars fans that just kind of sees a new movie and thinks, Yeah, okay. Because, I mean, I saw The Last Jedi, which people hated. People flamed The Last Jedi. I don't know why. Because George Lucas, the guy who made the franchise, he saw The Last Jedi and was like, this is my favorite. This is my favorite of the new ones. Because it brought so many new things to the table. Because people saw episode 7 and said, hey, wait a minute, this is just like episode 4. It's somebody on the desert planet that discovers they have force powers, and then they fight an evil dude with a red lightsaber. And I was like, yeah, okay, but it's Rey now, so that's different. And it's Kylo Ren now, so that's different. Then episode 8 happens, everything is different. Everything has changed, and people said, hey, wait, this isn't Star Wars enough. It's not like the original trilogy. But I was like, but isn't that what we just asked for? So then Star Wars was like, okay, you want it like the original trilogy? Boom, here's Palpatine. He's back, and everyone said, no! Why Palpatine? There's so many references to the older movie. Yoda shows up. Luke is still there in Force Ghost mode. And I'm like, you got to get to a certain point where you can look at the movies and say, this is how it is. That's not going to change. Let's not make a petition to remake episode 8 and spend billions of dollars again.
Yeah, I mean, I think my opinions on the sequels were that even though episode 8 was completely different, they all felt very much like they were the original trilogy, because it's still that same kind of arc, you know. You have a major win, and this is just because Star Wars has a trilogy, has to function this way. You have a major win in the first episode, you have a major loss in the second episode, you have a major win in the third episode. That's just how it has to go to, like, make a trilogy work, essentially. But I did think, like, with the sequels, I didn't understand the amount of, like, hatred that everyone had towards them, because it was like, yeah, it's Star Wars, and it's not really Star Wars for the people who love Star Wars in the 80s. It's Star Wars for a new generation who don't have, like, I love the original trilogy, but I don't think I have the same connection to them that my dad does, just because I'm, like, viewing them through the lens of, like, consuming them 30 years later. And so it's like, these new movies are very clearly not being made for the same audience that the original movies were, because they're being made for, like, the 20-year-olds of today who weren't alive 40 years ago. And so I think I didn't understand when people, or, like, I understood because I can, like, conceptualize if people have strong emotions about things, because human beings are human beings. But it was like, yeah, of course they're going to be similar to the original trilogy, because this is kind of, like, taking the original trilogy into a new age and, like, launching up kind of this resurgence of Star Wars movies. And then I have to say, the only thing that I didn't like about the sequels is I wouldn't have minded if Palpatine came back. I just didn't like, what I didn't like about it is that Palpatine had to be Rey's grandfather. I thought that was a bad decision. Because me personally, what was really magical about kind of Star Wars, you know, from when it was just, especially if you watch episode 4 and you don't know what's true, Luke's just a kid, right? He's just a kid. He doesn't, as far as you know, he doesn't have any important lineage. His parents are both dead. His aunt and uncle have raised him, and they're just farmers. And it's like the story about how this seemingly, like, very normal kid is actually has the potential to be the most powerful person in the universe. And even though his dad has this, and even when it's revealed that, like, Darth Vader's his father, it's not like you have some incredible lineage. It's just you and your dad are these two people who are kind of, through relative circumstances, just kind of caught up in the mess. They both start from somewhere very low, and they don't necessarily have, like, a lineage of power, just because Darth Vader isn't, like, Darth Vader's force powerful, but he's not, like, some, you know, he's not some, like, super important political entity. He's just, like, he's essentially, like, a powerful tank that can just go out and kill people. Yeah. And so I really liked when they had the reveal that Rey's parents were nobodies, because then it's like, she's just another kid from a desert planet who doesn't have a lineage, doesn't have anything super important about her. from, like, the history standpoint, but she is the most powerful person in the universe, and so I think, like, that message was really cool, and I would have liked to have them drive that home, and then they kind of steal that away, because it's like, no, in fact, your parents were super important, because your grandfather is a super evil guy, which they were so obviously trying to do, like, another Luke Vader reveal with that, but it fell flat because it didn't feel interesting. Like, it felt more interesting to be like, yeah, your parents are nobody, and you've made the decision of your own accord to go save the universe, and that's what's so special about you. Instead of, like, you're super special because you didn't know that your grandfather was actually the super evil guy who masterminded a complete change of the universe.
Yeah. I would also love to see just, like, how number 1, Emperor Palpatine reproducing. What the fuck? Number 2, what the fuck do those kids look like? What the fuck did it raise? How do you go from, like, Palpatine and then one generation
they look fine,
chill and normal?
Well, because Palpatine also looked normal, and then he started using lightning, and then he got all melty and stuff.
Yeah.
Don't do lightning, kids.
He became a potato sack after Mace Windu deflected lightning back at him. But I mean, it's also at least in the Star Wars the Star Wars Lennons, in the Star Wars Legends continuity, which TLDR, Star Wars Legends is everything that was written before the sequel trilogy came out, to where Disney said that's not canon anymore, but you can believe it if you want to. So it's technically not canon, but within Star Wars Legends, at least, using the dark side too much or being too powerful in it does make you ugly, but not like Palpatine ugly. But since Palpatine is super powerful in the dark side of the Force, it kind of makes sense that he would end up looking like a monstrosity. Because in Star Wars: The Old Republic, which is a very good free MMORPG, I'm not sponsored. If you make any character and you make too many like evil decisions, you will gradually start getting like yellow eyes, just like Anakin did. You'll start getting like the veins around your eyes will start getting darker and stuff. So it can be assumed that just by being an evil entity, that does make you look worse. Which is kind of a good message for, hey, don't do bad things in your life. Yeah. You want to be pretty, right? Don't do bad things
if you want to be hot, kids.
Don't do bad things.
Yeah.
Exactly. Being evil is nasty.
Again, so funny to me, because then, like, I think, like, half the internet just got very attracted to Adam Driver. Emo bad boy extraordinaire. And, you know, we almost lost Hot Kylo had he actually succeeded in his goals.
I mean, hey, when Ben Swallow was a meme, you know, some people were like, Him walking out with his high-waisted pants, just belly button hidden, just
his
little,
like, patent leather boots.
Yeah.
What a strut.
I will say that as a bisexual, Star Wars is one of the few fictional properties that I enjoy that has very few characters that I am attracted to, which I think is weird. Because I can watch a Marvel movie and be like, Captain America, Iron Man, Tom Holland. But I get to Star Wars and I'm like, Adam Driver is handsome.
He's fine.
But I don't want to. I don't want to kiss him. It's not a diss on Adam Driver by any means.
I get it.
No. It's just, I don't know. I look at him and I'm like, okay, please don't pull out your wacky crossguard lightsaber. Please calm down.
That's largely how I feel about dudes. It's just kind of like, yeah, you're fine. Would not want to smooch, but
it's cool.
You do you. Yeah, I think Adam Driver's just like, he's another one of those examples of just tall white men with very strange facial structures that people just seem to be really into.
Yeah, which definitely influenced the reveal of Kylo Ren's face, and people saw he went doing,
it's Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, sure.
Chalamet just kind of smushed together. Cool.
Yeah. Oh my god. I just the image of Kylo Ren taking off his helmet and being Benedict Cumberbatch just came into my head. And Ray is there. And she's like, Benedict Cumberbatch.
Okay, but hear me out. Kylo Ren.
It was you.
It's Timothy Chalamet. Elio? That one dude character from Lady Bird?
Oh my god. What were we even talking about before we got
Force
on
makes
this
you ugly.
Why Ray?
Dark side makes you ugly,
the dark side
I think.
makes you
/
nasty.
Ray's parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do Ray
Ray's
look normal when her grandfather looked like that? I think was what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Because recessive genes.
Also,
Punnett
imagine
squares.
dating as, like, Emperor Palpatine's kid. Imagine going up to someone and being like, huh, that's a really familiar last name. Are you related? Yeah, it's my dad. Like...
You take him to your house, they see a family photo. Yeah, this is me and my dad. It's Palpatine.
Like, you know what?
Yeah,
I bet
straight up Palpatine.
Yeah, he'd just be like, curfew is at 7. Like, I'll have her home by 6:30, sir. Yes, sir. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Do it.
Yes.
It's like, you better not do anything to break my kid's heart or I'll zap ya. Yeah, you will suffer.
You will suffer. Do not.
Jesus
give up
Christ. Like,
flowers.
Emperor Palpatine
No.
fucking walking you down the aisle.
Why do you sound like an Aussie? You sound like you're Australian, or like you're trying to do an Emperor Palpatine voice, but you just sound like an angry Australian person.
I don't have a good. I don't
I
have
don't
a
think
good Palpatine.
Palpatine
voice.
has a good Palpatine voice. He goes,
I mean, I think the actor does it well.
Okay. I had
It's
this is a
weird.
thought that I just had,
Uh-huh.
and maybe we can collectively put this together. So the scene in episode 9 where
Yeah.
he like summons the Colosseum of like spirits to
Uh-huh.
try and seduce her to the dark side, that just had big Lord of the Rings vibes. Like, you know, the scene where
The
they
Army of
summon the
Dead,
goat. Yeah,
When
and
Aragorn-
I was just like, wow, this is super familiar. And then I rewatched and I was like, oh, it just straight up looks like that scene from Lord of the Rings.
It's that one bit in Return of the King where Aragorn's like, hey, Ghost Army, it's your boy, King of Gondor. You
Help.
want to come fight? You could just, like, all charge
Yeah.
behind me. Cause they're probably gonna ask me, like, oh, you in what army? And then I'll be like, this army, and then you guys are gonna run. That sound good? And then the Ghost King was like, I live for the drama. Fuck yes.
All the ghosts are up in the Colosseum. I'm like,
Yes, good. The
Ooh.
entrance, the drama, the pyrotechnics.
You go, Queen.
Yeah.
I think.
It's like a fucking episode of
Okay,
Pose in the background.
That's not my biggest complaint about episode 9, but I did think the Colosseum of Sith ghosts was kind of wacky. I understand we don't know much about Sith culture from just the movies, and within canon, sure, maybe it makes sense, considering the most we see of the Sith is Darth Maul shows up, and then Palpatine shows up, and then Darth Vader shows up. We don't really see how, like, it started, but with my very strong attachment to Star Wars Legends, I look at that and I go, that's not how it
Mm.
goes. And maybe that's just me, but I look at it and I go, I understand that this is very much a sci-fi fantasy kind of mix, because we do have wizards. They're just also in space. But I saw that and I went, okay, but we're not watching Gladiator.
I do think it's interesting because the movies, they purport more or less that, like, Jedi and Sith are two religions. Like, that's essentially what
Mhm.
those two things are supposed to represent. And so the movies, like, use that as
Yeah.
a crutch when they need to, but they don't really treat them like religions, which I was like,
Yeah.
you know, it would be so much more interesting if you, like,
No.
actually acknowledge that these are religions with, like, cultures and heritages instead of just, like, oh, powerful good guy, powerful bad guy, they do the laser sword battle sometime.
Yeah. This is like
Yeah,
if someone
'cause, I
made
mean,
a
with-
movie about Earth and were like, there are only 2 religions. Satan worshipping and Christianity. And that's it! That's all you can do! That's all you can do! And they're fighting each other all the time. That's the only
Yeah.
religions that you have. I'm like, motherfucker, a whole
Mhm.
galaxy. And they got 2!
I mean,
No denominator, just 2!
And it's the same
Yeah.
religion, just the good version and the
Especially-
evil version. Like, they worship the same force.
Exactly, yeah. It's like there is an all-powerful thing that we draw our power from, is just what we use it for. And I mean, it isn't one of the proponents of religion, like, you can convert
Yeah.
and become a
would
member
love
to
of
see a
this
fucking-
religion. When, like, you cannot do
No,
that
you
in
either
Star
are
Wars
force
Jedi.
sensitive or you're not.
unless you need to be force sensitive. If you're like Han Solo cannot
Yeah.
just be a Jedi. It doesn't work like that. As cool as that would be,
Han Solo, but he can use the force.
sorry.
Yeah.
Too powerful.
The movies would have
Yeah.
been over like that.
Oh my god, yeah.
The
Yeah.
script would have been 4 pages long.
Avatar: The Last Airbender did it better.
Force chokes that Rodian
Because
dude.
that one, there's still, like, cultures attached to it, but it's like, well, not everyone can do the cool magic power thing. And that's okay, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the idea that there aren't any, like, denominations or differing like, what are Methodist and Presbyterian Jedis like? I just want to know.
There are, going back to Star Wars Legends, because I think it has a lot of relevant content that more people should be aware of, there are different denominations of Jedi, quote unquote, especially ones that don't follow the traditional. The light side is the maximum amount of good you can do. Is the only path to follow. Do not meddle with the dark side whatsoever. There are gray Jedi. There are ones that really, like the name suggests, exist in that gray area and still ultimately try and serve good while drawing from both the light side and the dark side of the Force, because they see both those things as something that completes the entire image of what the Force is, and not as a rejection of one side. It is
funny when people are like, we must bring the universe into balance by obliterating our opponents. Like, wait a second, guys?
Exactly.
Guys, chill.
I think that is the one thing that made whole, and I didn't follow it well, but that made the whole Kylo Ren dynamic good, is because it's like, yeah, if you choose one to be like, this is representative of the dark side and this is representative of the light side, then making peace, that could have been good. But it was overshadowed by the rest of episode 9, which was just kind of like, it wasn't bad, it was just kind of there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys want to hear, I don't know if it's a hot take, maybe it's not, but some people I think will disagree with me.
The most controversial opinion we've covered yet on the podcast.
This is my spicy
coming
take.
Up right here.
Okay.
It's the spicy take. Sensitive listeners, avert your ears.
The best Star Wars movie outside of the original trilogy is Rogue One, and I don't want to argue that, but Rogue One is the best out of any Star Wars addendum film.
I do not disagree. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to name favorites when it comes to Star Wars, unless your favorite is Attack of the Clones, in which case, no, it's not.
You're just straight up wrong. I'm sorry, but you're wrong.
No, that is the incorrect opinion. My apologies to you and your family. But Rogue One is really, really good. I think my thing with Rogue One
is like, out of, and this is just the way that I feel, out of like the 8 movies that aren't the original trilogy, Rogue One feels the most like a Star Wars movie. Like, I watch it and I'm like, this feels like Star Wars. More than a lot of the other ones. I feel like the original trilogy, I can get into my problems with the original trilogy, but they don't feel like Star Wars films. And to a certain extent, the sequels don't really feel like Star Wars films either. Like, they feel more like Star Wars films. But Rogue One, it has nothing to do with any of the characters we know and love, but it still feels the most like, this is a Star Wars story, which was, like, really cool to watch.
Yeah.
And it's also just a cool story, and it followed my advice for how you make the most conclusive ending, which I found very funny.
Yeah, and I think with Rogue One, especially, it's kind of similar to The Mandalorian in the way that it sort of recontextualizes maybe recontextualizes is the wrong word, but it introduces the setting of the original trilogy in a way that is more fit for the modern day. Because, I mean, when the original trilogy came out, the setting is really cool because there is an empire ruling the entire galaxy. But it was also the first 3 movies that were made, and I guess you could say it hadn't really figured itself out yet entirely, considering we still had a lot of lore and books and, games that had yet to be made. So when you look at things like The Mandalorian and Rogue One, it brings back the original trilogy in this time in the galaxy that was really desperate for hope. I mean, because without Luke, things are pretty
it's a bad time.
And I think watching the original trilogy, you might not necessarily get all of that because the main character is Luke Skywalker and he is here to save the galaxy and he does it damn well. So when you watch something like Rogue One, especially with Darth Vader being a character in that movie, which I absolutely adore, you can see how horrifying the Empire is. Because spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen Rogue One, even though we've been spoiling the entirety of the Star Wars franchise this entire time.
Go watch Rogue One.
All the main characters die. All of them are dead. They get blown up by the Death Star while it's in its relatively prototype stages. They give the plans to Leia, but everybody's dead. And shoot, whoa, what was my point that I was getting to with this?
Okay.
What was I saying before,
it feels like you can't win in that scenario. It makes it creates a story where the good guys don't win. Like, they fulfill their objective, but at the end of the day, like, I think a lot of times we think winning is surviving. That's kind of how Star Wars paints it. Especially with, like, the amount of time the rebels are like, fuck, we gotta get away right now, we're gonna get killed. To be like, they don't win in that sense was very interesting.
Yeah, and the Rogue One team was definitely, like, a super valuable asset for the rebels to have, but it definitely shows that sacrifices need to be made, especially when it's good people that are willing to go the extra mile and put their lives super duper on the line to serve a better cause in order to achieve that sort of grandiose victory against an empire that is ruling over the entire galaxy. And that same sort of showing how horrifying the original trilogy genuinely was outside of Luke being a badass was how they brought back Darth Vader and how they demonstrated his superimposing presence with the addition of kind of modern filmmaking and suspense. Because in the original trilogy, if you're watching it after watching something like the prequels or the sequels, when Darth Vader shows up, he just kind of walks through the room. It's a bright room. There's stormtroopers. The music is just kind of playing, and he has his hands on his hips, and he looks at the dead rebels, and he goes, yes. But when he shows up in Rogue One, he walks through a room that is filled with smoke to a man that we have come to appreciate as the main antagonist of the movie. And as Darth Vader shows up, he towers over him. There's this contrast between him and the main antagonist, as the main antagonist is wearing all white, and Darth Vader is there in his all black, robotic, mechanical, superimposing look. And he just, as we've been saying this whole time, commands anybody who is seeing him. And when he shows up in that hallway full of all the rebels, and you hear that breathing, and it just slowly gets closer as all those rebels turn and look into the darkness, and then his lightsaber turns on and that music starts up, it's everyone chills. I'm in the theater shaking. I'm like, he's one of those bad guys that you can root for because he's just that cool.
I think
and that's not me like justifying him being super evil. It's just the way he operates, the way he functions, and seeing that in a new movie where you can see better with the power of like special effects, how powerful he is. It's crazy. He's put people on the ceiling. There's like 10 dudes all shooting at him, and he's just deflecting all the bullets and effortlessly taking all of them down. And it could have been over right there. Had he got the plans, the original trilogy wouldn't
I think it's
happen.
also like this. I think if you go and you watch the opening scene of A New Hope, because they kind of do like a 1-for-1 recreation of that scene in Rogue One, and it's like very cool because it makes you appreciate A New Hope, I think, even more to like go watch that. Because even if it's like the quality isn't as good, if you're just watching New Hope, that is still a terrifying scene, even with like the 80s limitations, because it's like you so don't know what's going on. Like you're thrust kind of right into the middle of everyone's in a panic, what's happening, and Darth Vader appearing at the beginning of A New Hope is still like one of the scariest things, because it's just like, he's here and he's gonna fuck your shit right up.
And he does.
He does so
he
expeditiously.
Absolutely does. Yeah. I was trying to find a word that was bigger than expeditiously, and I could not locate it.
Yeah. I would defeat Vader with my SAT word skills.
Yeah. I guess my dad talks about this a lot, but speaking of the beginning of New Hope, I think that the opening shot of that is one of the smartest shots in, like, all of film that I've ever seen. Because it's, like, there's something about the fact that instead of having the big... Because you see the rebel ship approaching, and it approaches from beneath you, and it's like, it's a ship, and it's just moving. And I think that that's really smart, because you see it appear from behind you, which immediately puts you, like, I think so many movies, you see things appearing from, like, the sides or walking in from behind, and so to have it come in from, like, behind the audience is very smart, because it's, like, immediately the world feels so much bigger than I think a lot of movies make the world feel, because it's clear, like, you are existing inside the universe instead of looking at it from the outside, because things can happen behind you. And then to see the Star Destroyer come in over the top of the screen and just completely dominate the entire screen, it's like, oh, before even knowing what the Empire is, before having any context, you are immediately afraid, because this is, like, such a dominating force that's bearing down on, like, kind of the opening of the movie, which I think is, like, one of the smartest film decisions I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Oof. The original trilogy, man.
I love freaking Star Wars. This is why I say, like, it has something for everybody. Do you like telekinetic powers? Watch Star Wars. Do you like dominating military forces in or not in space? Watch Star Wars. Do you like robots and spaceships? Watch Star Wars.
Magic? Watch Star Wars.
Watch Star Wars. It's got everything. You like occasionally bad writing decisions? Watch Star Wars. You like kisses that don't need to happen? Watch Star Wars. There are at least 2 of those.
Yeah. There's that wonderful Luke Leia thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
You like slightly incestuous love triangles? Yep. Watch Star Wars.
Yeah.
Watch Star Wars.
We love it because they're fraternal.
Can I say that? I mean,
it's not the worst fraternal twin incest.
They
ever,
didn't know.
They don't know that they're siblings. But,
yeah, and they don't go the whole 9 yards. It was very much just to kind of
and the only thing that actually happens between them, aside from Luke and his weird having feelings for his sister ? But the only thing that really happens between them is very clearly Leia trying to give the middle finger to Han, which doesn't make it better, but does kind of recontextualize what happens.
Yeah, I'm just y'all.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm a fraternal twin with a brother, and I'm tired. Boys and girls can just be siblings.
It's fine.
It is fine.
I mean, from a writing perspective, George, you kind of
why though?
Straight people.
I mean, I'm sure there were verbal ways for Leia to say, "Hey Han."
She could have just said, "Hey Han, fuck you."
Yeah, you know what?
Watch.
Just let Leia say the word "fuck" in the Star Wars.
It's so actually kind of. It's a very small thing that I've noticed about the sequel trilogy is how people have slowly started cursing more. Because it was in Episode 8 particularly, in what might be my least favorite moment in the movie, simply because people do not curse in Star Wars. And I don't care. You can say whatever you want in a movie, but as soon as Poe says, "Let's just hope that big ass door," I said, "Stop that! You can't say ass. This is a Star Wars movie. You can't say that." Because they don't say it, and it makes sense because the movies were made in the 80s. That was before people unless you were really digging, you're probably not going to be watching a movie where people are cursing, especially something like Star Wars that's very family oriented. But now you have movies like Batman v Superman where he's just, oh shit. The Avengers, everyone's throwing the word around. I guess it was a matter of time in Star Wars before somebody said... Yeah.
Before somebody said the fuck word.
Yeah. I mean, I like that they use Nerf Herder as a...
Yeah, that's very funny.
Because I love the thought of different galaxies having their own negatively connotation lingo. Because it doesn't take place in our galaxy. Yeah, they might speak the same language, except now it's called Common and not English, because there is no England. But it's funny. Very, very different piece of space-related media. But in Voltron Legendary Defender, they say Quiznak, which is fuck. In Star Wars, why can't they say something different?
Battlestar Galactica, it's fracking instead of fucking.
Yeah. Which is,
it still sounds funny and it gets the point across. And there are just words you can come up with that are not composed of curse words, but still sound like it, like jackwit. So but the whole Leia Luke thing is just there's just a trend, y'all, and I've seen it, and I'm tired. It just kind of speaks to this broader theme of if there's a guy and a girl and they're on screen, they need to be love interests, and it doesn't matter if they're related, because we're straight people and we don't know what's going on. I'm so done with the heterosexual community at any given point. I'm so over it.
Me too. Listen, man, I was so ready for Poe and Finn to I was ready for that. I was ready for that kiss. I'm waiting for it.
No, then we just got the 1 second lesbian
from
kiss.
The Empire.
Yep.
That I've expressed my anger about.
That did happen.
You had a whole PowerPoint. Eli had a whole PowerPoint about the 1 second lesbian kiss in Star Wars. And ran a whole club meeting on it, which was interesting. It was very informative and entertaining.
To be clear, the problem isn't that, if they wanted to put lesbians in Star Wars, they should have actually put lesbians in Star Wars instead of being but look at these women, neither of them have names and they kiss one time.
And that's allyship,
and we're gonna cut it so we can sell this movie in other countries.
Look, if they're appearing in the credits as Lesbian 1 and Lesbian 2, instead of here are their character names with dialogue, we can do a little bit better. They can at least explain part of the plan, right? and have
Yeah.
stakes.
Yeah.
It could
Or
have
you
at
could
least
just straight up do it with a protagonist character. Like,
We could do that too. Dude, I'm saying Finn and Poe. Finn and Pin. They redeemed each other. Poe would have died, and Finn would have been a slave to the First Order forever. Poe gave him a name. He gave him a name. He didn't have a name. He was FN 2187.
that sounds right.
Sure. He
Okay.
was prisoner
I'm
2.
It was
fact check
definitely
myself.
FN
This is the
something.
least important thing I'll say.
But yeah, it was.
Yeah, FN 2187. I was right. Okay,
Good memory.
cool. This is important.
But yeah.
Thank you. Just the voice of Captain Phasma saying FN 2187, and then I think, wow, they could have done a lot with her character, but they didn't. Also, a problem with the sequel.
Yeah, there are a
trilogy.
lot of characters that they just kind of
Can we
throw
please
in,
get
and
it?
then they're like, eh.
Look, it's a woman. She's from Game of Thrones.
Another
down the
person who
trash
kind of got that
compactor.
treatment in the sequel was Rose.
Mm.
Because she's, like, really important in episode 8, and then just like, yeah, she's still here.
Yeah.
Question mark?
They had to placate
And
the
I-
Reddit fanboys.
I like Rose because she kind of shows the audience when Finn is about to make a very, typical masculine male sacrifice. Let's save everybody because I'm a strong man who's willing to die. And Rose comes by and says, "No, stop it. Why?
It's not
You
necessary.
don't have to do
Calm
that."
down.
And she,
Cease and desist.
yeah, and she
sir.
shows everybody like, "Hey, we don't need to be like the cold-hearted. I feel nothing. I will die now because man die." She just kind of showed like, yeah, we can do other things. I mean, I'm not going to say a strong man did not appear and save the, what was it? Yeah, the Resistance, not the Rebellion. Because yes, Luke does show up, but he's also Luke Skywalker. Who else was going to show up?
Yeah.
And then Rey finishes the sequel trilogy. And I'm like, we don't need to die.
Yeah.
We don't have to.
Sacrifice
This is
is
true.
And
yeah,
Rose
sacrifice
know
is
that.
not the only way to get what you want, my dude.
Yeah, and people were upset about that. It's like, no, she's ruining Finn's big moment. I'm like, no, Finn has a lot of good moments. He fought with the lightsaber.
He straight
He
up
fought
just
Kylo
ran
Ren.
on a spaceship. Like,
He-
like on the
so that's
exterior of
cool.
a
He went on
spaceship.
a
I
whole
should not just
mission.
inside a spaceship, on the exterior,
Yeah.
dropped a bomb. It was a very, like, weird but cool scene.
Yeah.
Finn has so many great moments. He beat Captain Phasma. Captain Phasma was like twice as big as him.
Yeah.
Freaking cool.
Yeah,
No, I think
that is.
There are a lot of good moments in the sequels.
Mhm.
I feel like they're just kind of overshadowed by not a weak plot, but a plot that can't, like, a plot that keeps changing itself because of fan service reasons.
Mhm.
I feel like it's so clear that the
Yeah.
sequels had a plan, and then that plan got derailed because they were trying to, like, make sure the movies were profitable. Which kind of, that's one of the things that I like about the original trilogy, is that it's very clear, like, that wasn't influenced by fan service. So much of it is just weird and there, and that's what makes it great, because it's like, it feels continuous. It doesn't feel like they were changing anything to make someone happy. They were just like, yeah, we're gonna do what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
George Lucas was sitting back, pina colada in hand. I'm doing whatever the fuck I want.
And yeah, I think that's what made the originals really great, and what holds the sequels back is that making any type of Star Wars content now is a terrible, terrible venture. You are signed up for a life of sorrow if you are working on
I
that
think
movie.
that is the main thing that I remember from the sequel trilogy, because I watched, I think, like, episode 7, and then I just kind of, like, fell off of it, because, like I said, I just wasn't really into Star Wars. I watched it to say that I'd watched it. And then, like, everything about the sequel trilogy just kind of hit the news, and everything, like, the shit really hit the fan, and I was like, everyone is really angry about this trilogy. What the fuck is going on? Is everyone okay? The answer is no.
No, nobody's okay.
Yeah, because I think the problem was that they so much wanted to, like, hit the same success as the original trilogy, but they didn't want what happened with the prequels to happen with the sequels, which is, like, I think the prequels were trying to do something that can only be done in sci-fi books. Like, I think that's ultimately where the prequels kind of shoot themselves in the foot, because so much of it's, like, the Trade Federation stuff, the Senate, all of that, like, it works in a book, because you can do massive lore dumps, and you can put, like, kind of boring stuff into books, and they're still interesting because by being able to read, you can, like, insert a character's narrative over what's going on and kind of add, like, a bit of personality to it. But because they couldn't do that in a film, it's just like, yeah, you get really boring Trade Federation lore dumps that it's like, this doesn't matter. Yeah. So I think, like, the sequels were trying to do a lot of lore building and just kind of failed because of that. Because Star Wars isn't really a lore-dependent universe. That's what, like, the original trilogy, there's no lore. There's barely any history. They're just kind of like, yeah, this is happening.
Yeah, there's an empire, we gotta go fight
forth.
Yeah. We gotta go fight it.
The most lore we really got about the Jedi was Obi-Wan's 3-second mention of the Clone Wars, which then, like, did not matter until 20 years later.
But yeah, I think that, like, the sequels were so scared of becoming the prequels that they couldn't really, like, give it their all the same way the original trilogy could.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that really is a big issue with the prequels that people take, is that the Trade Federation is not scary.
Bureaucracy, woo!
At all. I mean, in episode 1, especially, when Anakin Skywalker is a very, very young child who has no proficiency in the Force, chosen one or not, he's a kid, boy. He's a baby. And then he hops in a starfighter, accidentally starts it up, goes into space, and then wins the fight against a massive Trade Federation base. When he's like 7.
Kaboom!
And then he says that line in space when he says, "Now this is pod racing." Ooh! And nobody liked that. Everybody wanted it. And I get it. But like the real terror of the prequels and why I like episode 3 so much, despite, you know, Hayden Christensen, is because I like, to put it blatantly, I like watching things go to shit.
It's fun to watch things go wrong.
Terribly wrong. Exactly. And that is what Revenge of the Sith really embodies, is that the horror that we've been running from this whole time was right there. And it was Sheev Palpatine. There he is. He takes over. I like that his name is Sheev. Sheev is a funny name. But it's horrific. It's like first of all, real life comparison, the monsters are always in strong political positions of power. Not going to name any names.
You can name names.
No, name names.
Donald Trump is a Sith Lord. Jeff Bezos is a Sith Lord. Mark Zuckerberg is a Sith Lord. Mike Pence is a Sith Lord. George Washington could have been a Sith Lord.
He owned slaves.
I'm not going to say England wasn't an empire because they were.
He was a Sith Lord, and they made another baby Sith Lord, and now that baby Sith Lord is the big Sith Lord, and that's kind of where we're at.
I mean, Sith canonically had a lot of infighting between themselves.
This is true.
You know.
Yeah,
America's
I do think
Darth Vader.
So I guess the main issue that I've heard people have with the prequels is just like episode 1 doesn't explain how Darth Vader happened, which I think is dumb. I think it's dumb to criticize episode 1 for not getting all the way through Darth Vader's story, because it's like, no, what's interesting about the prequels is that, like, you are seeing a descent into madness, more or less.
Yeah.
But
and then people will see that descent into madness and they say, "Ew, Hayden Christensen."
But yeah,
like,
I think...
But that's him.
I think that the problem with them is that they're Star Wars is like an adventure, essentially, and they're trying to make it a political intrigue, which just doesn't, like... The limits of the story are that it can't hold up the political intrigue and not be completely different.
Especially considering we know that the Trade Federation and the Separatist Army does not matter at all once the original trilogy happens. They're not there.
Even the Senate
So as soon as
mattering.
episode 1... I mean, like, I love Count Dooku. I think I think both the Clone Wars cartoons are done really well and make this 4-second mention of the Clone Wars in episode 4 into something that really matters and carries weight. And that really makes the Trade Federation and the Separatist Army seem a lot cooler than they were initially, once you kind of separate the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. But if you're looking solely at how do things go from point A to point B, it doesn't matter. Especially for Palpatine, considering the Separatist Army was really just a stepping stone for him to take political power, when it was treated in the movies as this big, massive political entity, which they were, but it was also boring.
Yeah. So y'all are mentioning, like, a lot of lore, a lot of, like, outside TV, like, books and TV shows and stuff. So, like, what the fuck is going on with the prequels and the Trade Federation? Because that sounds boring as fuck, and I'm kind of remembering why I didn't retain that information past age 7.
I'm gonna say, I don't know.
Okay.
What their motivations are, I don't know. They made a clone army? Question mark?
I think the TLDR is planets don't like being part of the Republic, which, you know, understandable, I guess. Not everyone is going to get what they want when you have a massive political body, especially when you have certain planets that are like Alderaan, which is a super like rich, high-class planet, and then you have other planets like Tatooine, which are barren and poor, and people are like making wells for water when it's completely made of sand.
Yeah.
Or moisture. It's moisture farms. It's not even just straight up water. They have to pull the humidity from the air. But yeah, so I don't remember how the Trade Federation gets in league with the Separatist Army. They might be the same thing. It's something or another. But the Trade Federation, like, something money, and of course that tempts the people who don't like the Republic because everything is motivated by cash and credits. So they make a droid army with the help of Palpatine and his apprentice Count Dooku, his actor whose name escapes me, rest in peace.
Christopher Lee.
And they, yes, very good actor, freaking ruled as Count Dooku. And they construct a droid army, which is what the Republic is fighting against. The Republic does not have the means to fight against them, since the Jedi are very much like, no, we must uphold the peace. We're not an army. And then they become an army.
Yeah, they militarize kind of super fast.
Yeah, to fill that gap between the lack of combat prowess that a lot of Jedi have, they discover the clone army being constructed on Kamino, which nobody asked for.
It's someone's science project. Like,
it just happened.
That was superfluous.
No, I thought that was the Republic to counter the droid army was making a clone army, but they were making it outside the purview of the Jedi. And then Obi-Wan goes there and is like, "What?
It's like, listen,
just confused Ewan McGregor. Just
wait a second. What do you mean that my untrained army of pacifists isn't a good enough military for you? I'm so offended.
Nope. I mean, they militarize eventually. I mean, they kind of have to after, because they can say whatever they want about being pacifists and not holding grudges. As soon as the Battle of Geonosis happens and the droid army takes out, like, a very large chunk of the Jedi, and it's just, like, Mace Windu, Anakin, Padme, who's not a Jedi, and Obi-Wan, and, like, a couple other people standing in the middle around the droid army, I'm pretty sure that everybody realized, okay, this is a threat we need to take care of.
Maybe we should militarize now.
Maybe we should do that.
Maybe we should militarize. Hit the button. But
yeah, no. And I think also with the clone army, then there's a whole thing about, like, Jango Fett, who has Mandalorian armor and gets, like, a clone of himself to raise as his son, but they're not Mandalorians, and it's like...
He's not a man. It was the most disappointing thing ever for them to say, yeah, this is Jango Fett. Look at him. Look at him. Look how cool he is. And then first Mace Windu decapitates him. Oh.
Damn.
And then he wasn't a Mandalorian. He just had Mandalorian armor. Because you can just find things in Star Wars, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like a regular video game. You can just pick up other people's equipment.
Yeah. You just, look, a box.
Yeah. So
Mandalorian armor. I guess this is
what's
me
the big
now.
deal with Mandalorian stuff? Why is that a big disappointment?
It's like they're...
Dude, Mandalorians are cool as
hell. Yeah, they're like a warrior... I guess Mandalorian is kind of... Like, it's implied that it's semi-religious, or like it's like a religious... But it's also like it's a religion, but it's also a culture, but it's also a group of people. But like the whole thing with Mandalorians is that they're this like super battle prowess warrior group who have like special things related to like a specific type of metal, and they have like very specific requirements on their armor. But the big thing with Mandalorians is that they can't remove their armor and they can't remove their helmet. Like that is part of the oaths that they take, or like part of the way that they maintain their status as a Mandalorian, is that they have to keep their armor on. And so that's how we know that Jango Fett and Boba Fett aren't Mandalorians, is because we see them both at different times remove pieces of their armor, and so they can't be a Mandalorian with that.
Damn, I really hope that...
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why, like, we know that the Mandalorian can't be either one of them, is because...
Yeah, because he could not be a Mandalorian without removing his armor.
Those are uncomfortable
So the reason
pajamas.
we don't see his face...
Those are...
The reason we...
gotta be tough to shower in. Damn!
I was gonna say that, yeah. It's gotta be hard to do. to do your laundry. You gotta go in the washing machine, just spin around.
This is
with
our
it.
culture. We do not believe in baths.
Yeah, Mandalorian broader history is kind of whack because the name Mandalorian comes from the alien species that they were. Like the founders of the culture were, like their species was Mandalorian, and they were kind of just a species of people that had a very strong, like Eli said, very battle hardy culture. And over time, you know, they got in several wars with the Jedi over the course of history. And I guess that was around the time when they started recruiting people who weren't of the Mandalorian species to become Mandalorians, and
who are called foundlings.
Yeah. And they had a lot of different codes over the course of time, but most of them boiled down to battle is life, battle's strong. Don't be weak, that is not honorable. But there were some that were a little more kind of pacifisty, and then other ones were very much like kill is life. And that's why they're so commonly associated with bounty hunters, especially when you look at Boba Fett. Even though he's not a Mandalorian, he really kind of set the trend in motion, because if you're a battle hardy culture and your kind of point of your religion and group of people and goal in life is to go fight, the best thing to do is to start wars with other people who are really good at fighting, like the Jedi, or go bounty hunting and take down large squadrons of people. Even though it's not like solely what they do, it's a lot of it.
All right, so we got this like clone army that's going on the side because the Jedi at this point are pussies.
Yeah,
and we got these Mandalorians who aren't Mandalorians but just like copped the armor somehow. So clearly it's possible to take it off them because they managed to pry that off someone's corpse.
Well, yeah, it's not glued to their skin.
And like you can exchange pieces of your armor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like,
but it's also, I feel like, Caroline, what's important to know is that the clone army, they go on to get commandeered by Anakin, the lad himself.
Okay.
They become the stormtroopers, and then at some point stormtroopers stop being clones, but I think it would have been really funny if they just took that and ran with it, and it was just like, all the stormtroopers forever are just clones of Jango Fett, and we're not changing that. We're not recruiting people.
We learned in 9th grade biology that having a complete monoculture is generally bad because eventually you're gonna get a mutation, and then that's a whole generation of soldiers that's fucked up for good.
That did happen. That did happen in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. There was one clone that was like Hunchback of Notre Dame, like super old guy, and he just walked. They made him the janitor, and it's sad because he's like, no, poor boy, but he's like the sweetest old man who just looks vaguely like the other clones, but he's like this, you know, and he's like sweeping, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
I really do be like this.
I hope he's okay.
So yeah, like having just clones forever, like eventually, you know, just kind of, it's gonna end up bad. You're gonna get a bunch of like club-footed soldiers with really like bad teeth.
But that was also the issue with the clones, is that they were made with accelerated aging.
Yeah. That's stupid.
And so that's part of the reason they weren't necessarily kept around as stormtroopers.
Yeah, they're fodder to fight a war and die.
Yeah, and in the Star Wars Rebels television series, which is, people don't like it, but a couple of the clones from the Star Wars: The Clone Wars series show up, but they're like super old. They got like white beards. They're all bald, and it's weird to look at, because also like, why would you do that on purpose when you could have made them age at a regular rate and then kept them in their prime for a longer amount of time? So you could have had a very large army of people that are in their prime all the time. Sorry. And then you could have used them as the stormtroopers, and you could have had an incredibly skilled army that was kind of made with the intention of killing Jedi. Yeah. Because that was ultimately what they were made for, because it had the brain chips that were put into their heads, so when Palpatine said execute Order 66, they had to. They didn't want to, and that's really what made it super tragic, even for the clones, is that it was against their own will to kill the Jedi in Episode 3. Except for the 3 clones that took the inhibitor chips out, who appeared in Star Wars Rebels. But how did they know they were there? Star Wars is confusing, man. I don't know so many things.
As I said, Star Wars sometimes likes to shoot itself in the foot in the name of continuity.
It just said, yes, all the clones have these brain chips.
Except for...
Not all of them keep them in. Yeah. Why?
I mean, if I figured out that there was something kind of attached to my face that wasn't there originally, I'd probably want to try and take it out.
But how did they? I don't even know how they found out.
Well, I imagine if you hear someone say execute Order 66 and then your body starts doing things that you're like, I don't want you to be doing this, you'd be like, something dumb did happen.
They took him out beforehand. They took him out beforehand.
Well, then I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you know?
Maybe they were just smart. Maybe Jango Fett's just a smart dude. And as the clones of him, they're also just smart dudes. I don't know.
It would have been funny if Jango Fett just went to like 3 of the clones at random and said, hey.
Pass it on.
You got a chip in your brain.
One of them figured it out. One of them like hit their head really hard and like knocked it out. And we're like, oh fuck, what is that? And then his like 2 friends were with him. And like, oh shit, do we all have that? And that's how it happened.
He slipped and fell on a rock, and then his head got cut. He got a little scar on his forehead, and he was like, "Wait, what?
No, like he gashed his head open on like a rock, and people were like, dude, something's blinking. Like,
okay,
I gotta get it out. But like, wait a minute, wait a goddamn second.
What is that?
He's like, damn, my brain. I feel my brain.
Brain. It's different though.
My brain. I can see clearly now. Hey, yo, fellas. Let me cut your head open.
Yeah.
Let's not tell anybody else about this because the plot.
It's like we would probably get in trouble if we're all being microchipped. So maybe we should not inform the people.
Yeah.
We live with a bunch of snitches.
I really hope this doesn't command the rest of our friends to kill the Jedi that we have come to know and love over the course of this years-long war. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. To be fair, I feel like if it was like something that gave someone else access to your brain, it would be a fair leap to say, like, okay, maybe they can see what's going on in there, which is bad. So maybe if we do that, then they won't have any choice but to snitch if they don't get to the chip fast enough, which would, yeah. So we got these clones that are aging super fast. By the time, like, we're 20, they'd be, like, 86 and, like, spitting out dentures, which seems like a poor battle strategy, but what do I know? And they're all ready to go. And then they're gonna fight the Jedi. Or, no, they're gonna fight with the Jedi against the Trade Federation, which sounds very bureaucratic.
The Separatist Army.
Yes.
It sounds like the way to defeat
Army and the Trade Federation. But then the Emperor done take over the clones and make them... And then we see the slaughter of the Jedi.
Oh, no.
And they're all dead now.
Oh, no.
Yep.
That's sad.
Which is why Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Luke are the last 3 Jedi at the start of episode 4 or whatever, because all the Jedi get slaughtered.
Okay.
And it's like a
very certain Jedi could sense that something was wrong with the clones. That was why Yoda didn't get got, because he could feel it.
Yeah.
Because he's so strong, little green man. He went, oh, something's wrong. So he did a backflip and decapitated 2 stormtroopers because Jedi are pacifists and they don't like to kill people, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And then we see Chewbacca for like 2 seconds.
Oh, that's neat. So we got... Yeah.
Just random Wookiee. I'm sure somebody went into episode 3 like, I saw Wookiees in the trailer. One of these is going to be Chewbacca. It's gotta be that one.
So, yeah, I didn't really put 2 together of like, oh, so the clones were commandeered and then they did a genocide. That sucks. And then... So, what happens to the Trade Federation? What's up with that? Do we know what's going on? Did they disappear? Do they die?
I think that they either disappear or they get forcefully reincorporated into the Empire.
Okay.
I would assume
they're just a department now. They're an actual Trade Federation, and they're meant to, like, regulate commerce.
Well, because the Trade
if they were...
Yeah, the Trade Federation was was opposing the Jedi, which means that they are on the same side of the war as the Empire.
Okay.
Like, I think initially they opposed the Senate because the Jedi are allied with the Senate, but then when Palpatine takes over the Senate, then that means that the Trade Federation and the Senate have comparable goals, and I think that they probably get reincorporated, and then the Senate gets dissolved in the beginning of episode 4.
Okay, so Palpatine gets...
Considering also that Palpatine was...
Palpatine, like, gets the Trade Federation and the Senate
generally
and
the puppet master of... Yeah, because considering Palpatine was the mastermind behind the Separatist Army, even if he didn't play a direct role... In, like, commanding the troops, he did manipulate Count Dooku in a way that made him the one who's really pulling the strings behind both the Republic and the Trade Federation Separatist Army. Which, so once he takes over and he reveals himself to both sides, he's like, well, everybody gather around, we're all friends now, it was me the whole time.
Like, I'm your new boss.
Sheev Palpatine.
Yeah, I believe this was explained.
He takes off his mask.
He Scooby-Doo villains himself and he's like, it was me!
Yeah. It was me the whole time! I am the undercover boss. Again, this was explained in the musical parody clip as Palpatine made a civil war happen to get control of a galaxy that he already had control of.
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent!
That is
I'm
what
so
happened.
glad we cleared that up.
It's essentially...
And he's immortal.
He started a civil war just to kill off the Jedi. That's what he did.
Yeah, which, I mean, makes sense, considering one Jedi, quote-unquote, who also happened to be his granddaughter, defeated him, and she was not formally trained, no matter how powerful she was, being a descendant
She had, like,
of
a week
Palpatine.
of training.
Yeah, so imagine if the entire Jedi... I mean, shoot, Mace Windu, at least how it looks in Episode 3, almost beat Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mace Windu is a powerful dude, man. His lightsaber's purple. That doesn't happen. How did it get
that
there?
Kyber crystal's weird, dude. It just be like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Alright, and then that brings us up to the original trilogy, which is apparently the best trilogy.
Yes.
And that's where we got the Empire going on. So I guess the Trade Federation, it sounds really bureaucratic, so I like to imagine it's like, you're just gonna regulate actual commerce now instead of starting civil wars. Cool?
Cool.
Like, do you have anything that you would like to declare before entering Tatooine's orbit? Any fruit, tobacco products, meat, animals?
And then it's also really funny because at that point you realize, like, yeah, but you see no one doing legitimate trade. Most of the people who transport goods are smugglers. They're like, you never see a legitimate trade ship. You just see a whole lot of
border
smugglers.
control.
Yeah. There's never any actual, like, business going on in Star Wars. We're just to believe that it exists because there is a faction called the Trade Federation.
Yeah.
But all we see from them is droid army, big shooting.
No one has an actual office job in Star Wars. It's all just like you're either part of the evil empire and doing soldier things, or like maybe IT, and then you're a swordman who does force things.
Yeah.
Or you smuggle.
The equivalent of office jobs is the people you see in the background on the big ships, like the Star Destroyers, whenever Darth Vader is walking through the middle of the room and they're just there on the space computer,
just there to be afraid.
typing away.
Or the people who you just see walking around in the background. Like, you just see a whole bunch of stormtroopers that just march through in big squadrons. And where are they going? What are they doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing? We're going to the cafeteria. We want to get a snack.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just like,
I mean,
you know what?
considering how
Like,
easily...
A lot of female friend groups is like, can you go to the bathroom with me? And I feel like maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're just kind of, they've got that dynamic going on where it's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. It's like, okay, well, he's gonna go, so we're all gonna go, and like, we're gonna have like a fun time.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that's why Jedi can so easily sneak into Star Destroyers and different Empire ships, because Obi-Wan is a frail old man in Episode 4, and he is sneak 100 when he goes onto the ship.
He just kind of walks through and everyone's like,
He shows up and he's like walking behind stormtroopers, and he just he's out in the open when you see him. He pulls his lightsaber out and everything. He's just holding it in front of himself in a way that doesn't let him blend in with the shadows whatsoever. But
no one sees him.
The Force.
The Force.
Yeah,
and then
it's valuable.
Yeah.
So
as we approach kind of the last 20 minutes, I want to make sure that like weird other Star Wars, because you mentioned the specials, and I want to make sure we get to like the weird addendum Star Wars stuff that isn't canon but is loosely related.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I have my favorite Star Wars related media that's not a film ever, and it's my favorite thing.
Say it.
So someone took the original trilogy and wrote William Shakespeare's Star Wars. Yep.
You mean this one?
Yep.
For our listeners at home, Eli and Ellis just pulled identical copies of the exact same book out from their desks or whatnot.
This is my favorite thing
so
that someone has done with Star Wars. It's so funny.
It's really good. I have yet to actually sit down and read it, but whenever I'm bored, I just go to a random page and identify what part of the movie we're in. And it is the most hilarious thing that has ever come out of Star Wars.
Have you seen R2-D2's monologues?
No.
Oh my god. Can you please read an excerpt of R2-D2's monologues for us, please?
Let me find an R2-D2 monologue. But yeah, so R2-D2, he'll do like the beeps and stuff when he's on screen with other people, but as soon as he's alone, then he'll have a monologue. So let me find one.
Soliloquies.
It's weird that like the beeps are canonically like a language that can be deciphered in Star Wars. That is a thing you can speak.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it does sound a little bit like human speech inflections.
I mean, yeah, sometimes. There's this one droid in Star Wars Rebels that while he's flying through space, he goes like, ba 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 ba. And I was like, oh, huh. That's actually kind of cute. The show sucked. That was kind of cute. Yeah.
They impress each other by singing love songs. And that's how they date.
Oh my god. Droid mating calls.
Droid mating.
Very slow, romantic beeping.
It's not even mating calls, it's just serenading. Alright, you found it?
I found one. It's right when it's essentially the first night that R2-D2 and C-3PO are with Luke. You know, when, like, Luke kind of goes off because R2-D2 won't give him more information, and then C-3PO says, I don't think he likes you. No, I don't think I like you either. So then C-3PO leaves, and R2-D2 has this monologue. Now are the pieces all arranged for me to make a daring move and fly this place. The fool who sets the game in motion shall appear unto C-3PO and Luke. No more than if he were an errant knave, but hear the voice of R2-D2 all. My noble purpose I'll accomplish yet, to take to Obi-Wan the princess's news, to make my master Luke away from here, and in the end, perhaps more vital still, to make good connection twixt the two good men, a foolish thing this flight may seem to be, and yet more fine than foolish shall it be. But yeah, I just love that someone was like, you know what I'm gonna do with my time? I'm gonna take all of Star Wars and make it Shakespeare.
Good.
That is...
As they should.
So great.
Yeah, and it's like,
Man.
it is written in such a way that you could legitimately put these on. Like, they have allowances for battles and stuff, so I think that that's really cool.
That is
but
really
cool.
cool.
I wanted to bring this up.
That has the capacity to be performed.
That'd be so good.
That's dope.
Star Wars in the park.
Yes.
Star Wars in the park.
And then...
trying to think of my...
Another thing that's really funny is the Phineas and Ferb Star Wars. Did either of you ever watch that? That's such a good thing.
I haven't.
Yeah.
The best part is Darth Maul Ferb. I think that's like the single best thing that came out of those. Ferb as Darth Maul is not something I knew I needed, but you should look up an image because it's the funniest thing.
I'm gonna do it right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Ferb went full Darth Maul.
That's so funny. Oh god. I don't even remember what happened in that movie.
Oh.
But it was good.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I just remember that
is so great.
Doofenshmirtz is the Darth Vader allegory. Even though like Darth Vader does exist and like Doofenshmirtz is trying to impress Darth Vader and Darth Vader isn't interested at all. But yeah, Perry's just like an agent of the Rebel Alliance, which is very fun.
Doofenshmirtz was Kylo Ren before Kylo Ren was Kylo Ren.
Yes. Exactly.
Oh man.
That's so good.
No, it's bizarre how much just strange Star Wars content there is. I mean, what started as a series of movies that became incredibly popular, which I guess, you know, that really paves the way for getting weird content like William Shakespeare's Star Wars or a Christmas special, because Star Wars needs Christmas. I guess in making something that will inevitably become one of the most recognized and famous fictional universes in history, it should be expected. Because what happens with regular things, you get like fan art and fan fiction, but Star Wars just went ham. The Christmas special is one of the weirdest things.
You could get it published as a legitimate Star Wars story. Straight up, there's a...
You can. Yeah,
someone wrote, after Episode 5, they wrote, like, a version of Luke returning to Dagobah that, like, predates Episode 6, and it's supposed to be very interesting. I look forward to reading it. But yeah, there's, like, a whole bunch of Star Wars fan fiction that's just published and out there.
Yeah. George Lucas said, I'm gonna write a Christmas AU for my own franchise, and no one can stop me. Again, Pina Colada, I'm doing whatever the fuck I want!
Yeah. I mean, Caroline, how often are you on Brian David Gilbert's Twitter?
Often enough.
Okay, did you see the pod racing script when that happened?
Yes. Yeah. And apparently there's a genre of music in the Star Wars universe called jizz music, not jazz music. It is deliberately named that.
Yes, there is.
But yeah, because I just want to ask a question. I have an answer for this, but it's like, Star Wars is becoming such like an all-encompassing franchise, and my question was, what other, like, genres would you like to see incorporated into a Star Wars movie? Because I really want to see a heist film. Like, we got a little bit of that in Episode 8. Like, there was a perfect setting for a heist film, because it was a casino in space. And so I just want to see, like, a heist film in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I was thinking heist film kind of, sort of happened in Solo, but then it just got kind of weird. It turned into Prison Break.
Yeah.
And then it turned into gang starting, and then the gang dissolved, and then Han Solo tries to restart the gang with Chewbacca. But it had a little bit of heist element, but that was probably my favorite thing about Solo, was seeing that train scene where they're all on the train that's like turning on the tracks and stuff like that, because it's on like the side of a mountain. Because like, what if we could do that for a whole movie? So no, I totally agree with you.
I want to see Ocean's 11 meet Star Wars. That's what I want more than anything else.
I want a high school movie rom-com set on any planet. There's like this awkward new kid in school, and it's just one of the fucking clones that shows up and doesn't know what to do.
Oh my God.
I just thought of that, but in Luke's Jedi Training Academy, so like high school movie rom-com, but at the Jedi Training Academy.
Yes! Like, someone's force powers just flare up the second they see their crush, and like, someone's like lunch tray flips, and they're like, hey, what the fuck? And she's like, oh my God, I have to go hide in the restroom for the rest of life.
A high school anime, but it's set in Star Wars.
Oh my God. Which is incredibly ironic, because like, Jedi are not allowed to love.
No, but the funny best friend
is completely like, go against the continuity.
But the funny best friend that like is always in those rom-coms, the like supportive best friend, is a porg.
Just straight up is a porg.
Straight up is a porg.
Yeah.
She can communicate with this porg. This is never explained.
We will never understand what she's saying, but we'll know, like, just generally the vibes.
It's like a C3PO.
Ears get flapped, and she's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
you're so right. Oh my God, no, it's the story of someone who gets a really big crush on Ben Solo before he becomes Kylo Ren, and then he's like, but why did he leave? Like, it's just a stand-in for everyone who saw Kylo Ren in the movies and was like, that's hot.
It's a self-insert for all of them.
Yeah, just a one person.
You gotta appeal to the audience, man.
Yeah. Total fan service.
Total fan service. A girl whose best friend is a porg, who has just the biggest crush ever on Kylo Ren.
I don't have an answer for this. I'm gonna be totally real. I mean, I thought it was cool enough when I saw The Mandalorian happening, and I was like, it's a Western in space.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, because Star Wars has always had space Western vibes, but I just started watching The Mandalorian, and one episode in, and I was like, oh, I love how much of a Western this is. Yeah,
no, it's just the way he, like, pulls out his gun and does it in a very, like, cowboy quick shot manner whenever he's shooting. I'm like, y'all really did it. You really did it to him, Jon Favreau. You did. That was Jon Favreau, right?
I think so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or was it that other guy? Yeah, it was Jon Favreau.
I believe it's Jon Favreau.
I don't know what else. They've done a lot of things. I'm excited to see where they go, considering we're probably going to get more movies like Rogue One and Solo, if you're into that type of thing. Ones that don't focus on the Skywalker saga as much, and ones that really let us see what the rest of the universe is like, because we have so much other content to go off of. We already have everything from Legends, we have books that are in canon, and other characters that are currently not canon that could be brought in and made part of the canon of Star Wars right now. Because that's something they did in Star Wars Rebels, was there was this one general that was really super imposing and everyone loved him from this series of comics like 10 years ago. And once those comics became part of the Legends continuity instead of the canon, they took that character, put him into the show, and immediately made it better. So I was like, how do we do that? How do we do that again?
Dude, I just want a movie about Obi-Wan. I just want him living his life.
Me too. When is that happening?
Going on adventures separate from whatever the prequels were.
Doing Obi-Wan things.
Yeah, Obi-Wan just vibing.
I want
Obi-Wan doing Obi-Wan
What's up
things.
with R2-D2 and C-3PO? What's going on with them? I want to see a prequel movie about that. Just them.
Well, we do actually get both of their origins, don't we? Or we at least get C-3PO's. Because
I want a
Anakin...
sitcom Odd Couple style with C-3PO and R2-D2 is what I'm trying to say.
Good, I agree. That would be very fun.
Yeah, we do get C-3PO's origins. It's just Anakin is very good at building droids, so he makes one, and it is C-3PO. And he is strange looking in the first movie because he's not gold-plated yet. He's Wire's totally naked.
Yeah.
Naked bot.
And R2-D2's origins are just kind of... He is in Episode 1. He is very good at being an astromech droid, and everyone likes him.
As they should. As R2-D2 deserves.
Yeah, he's perfect.
Yeah, I just
R2D2 is a good bean.
I just
but
want
yeah,
R2D2 and C3PO. I just want a sitcom about them.
I just want to know what they were doing in the intervening 20 years between Anakin going evil and when they show back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They just kind of appear on the rebel ship.
Yeah.
In episode 4.
So, how'd that happen? How'd they become friends? How wacky is that?
How fun and interesting.
What's up with that?
But yeah, no, I think there are a lot of characters who I'm like, you could just do a whole thing about this character, and I'd be happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see Kylo Ren in his days as a Jedi. I think that would be pretty cool. Maybe Palpatine. Ooh. If we saw Palpatine going... Because one of the biggest things and here's the meme about, have you heard of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? There it is, everybody. I said it. There it is.
It's here. It showed up.
I understand most of those words individually.
TLDR once again, Emperor Palpatine, back when he was a apprentice of Darth Plagueis, he got trained by him, got super powerful. Plagueis trusted him a little bit too much. Palpatine snuck in his room and killed him. And I would like to see a film or series with a younger Palpatine in the process of becoming the sinister absolute force of domination and terror that he is. I think it might make people appreciate him a little bit more. I mean, especially considering episode 9 totally ruined him because he can now do anything for some reason. He can be cloned. He can make Snoke more than once. He can control Snoke. He can control Kylo Ren. But why did he do that in the first place when he could have just said, "Hey, yo, it's me. It's Emperor Palpatine. I taught your grandfather. You like your grandfather, right?" And Kylo Ren was like, "Yes, yes." And then they could have just done the First Order thing together. Yeah, everybody would have known that Palpatine was alive and they would have gone after him a lot earlier. But people were doing the same thing to Snoke. So what was stopping the...
Also, I don't think Palpatine's the kind to be particularly bothered by people going after him. He seems like he can handle himself.
That's what I'm saying. He was nowhere in episodes 4 and 5. He just kind of hid. We don't know where he was.
He was dealing with raising his children, apparently. Raising his full adult children who somehow died tragically, and we never learned what.
And then he got rid of him and kind of showed up on the Death Star and was like, "Hey,
he's like, well,
Darth Vader, what's poppin'? I just had kids.
I just had, or maybe one kid and then like a child-in-law."
Yeah, it's also, Eli, how do you feel about this? We know that Darth Plagueis could manipulate the midichlorians and make life from it, which many people think that is how Anakin happened. Do you think maybe Palpatine could have done the same thing, considering he learned from Darth Plagueis, and that is how he had children, considering nobody wants to fornicate with that?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe
wait.
It's also possible that he forced someone into it. I think that's equally something that could have happened in Star Wars.
Him thing to do.
I think that it's just I legitimately think that the whole Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter was something that was written in the final days of writing the script, and they were like, no one can tell us that we're wrong, because there's literally no information to back this up. It came out of nowhere. I think that it was there was so little indication that that's what would happen that you can't say that they were wrong, because it's it's impossible to prove a negative. There's nothing here to go on.
I mean, once it's been said in the movies, you can't tell them no.
Yeah, you can't just be like, no, Star Wars is wrong.
That along the same lines of people being attracted to Kylo Ren and early Anakin being hot, the young Palpatine was also very hot, and this all happened, and he just managed to have sex with somebody, and then it was just never explained. I like the idea of just a young hot Palpatine training and then murdering somebody, and then that's the crux. Maybe he also had a really evil girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know what?
Oh, sure.
Maybe there was some hot villainess that we just never really see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she wasn't in episode 6 because she was
busy doing other things.
Because she was like, I'm not going to go on the incompleted Death Star that's definitely going to get attacked. What do you think I am?
That's not safe for the baby.
Yeah.
The baby will be no.
Pregnant
yeah.
people shouldn't go on unstable starships.
He went, honey.
Do it.
Okay.
No.
I'll see you after the movie's over. Mwah.
And then he died.
I definitely won't get thrown into the reactor core of the Death Star. Don't worry. Guess what happened?
Yeah, that's how he died. They didn't even kill him. They just Darth Vader picked him up and threw him into the reactor core, and everyone was like,
with one hand. With one hand, mind you. He picked him up with like his one good hand, and then used his robot wrist, and then picked him up on the back. And then just did this weird kind of walk over when I'm here thinking, we have the Force still, right? Can't we, like, pick him up?
No, he just needed to use his little, like, retractor claw thing. And just go...
But yeah, no, every time I watch the Emperor die, I'm like, wow, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I can see George Lucas, like, the gears in his head turning about, how do I make the Emperor's death the most strange but also cool but also like funny in a really weird way method possible. Yeah. Let's throw him into the Death Star
right as it explodes.
What if we put him in the
right as it
thing?
explodes? Oh, and he's still shooting lightning out of his hands when he goes down, so he's just boom. Star Wars is weird.
Star Wars is weird.
I love the implication of, like, Palpatine's wife not going on the Death Star, because it's like, it's not child-proofed yet.
Exactly, yeah. Like,
I mean, it's not even really completely built. It's, like, partially built.
It's not child-proofed yet.
It's not a full sphere.
Like, okay, just because it's round on the outside doesn't mean all the sharp corners have rubber on them on the inside.
Exactly, and your throne room is conveniently right next to a chute that goes down to the reactor core. What if we fall in? And she was right.
I stand Palpatine's wife who has common sense.
This character we've completely created.
Yeah. We just made episode 9 infinitely better by creating Palpatine's girlfriend.
And on that achievement, I think we're probably going to have to wrap up this episode.
Alright.
Well,
it's been fun.
It has been fun.
It's been a great time. Thank you for letting me spout about my obsessions with space wizards and clones of a dude who's not a Mandalorian but looks like a Mandalorian. And
thanks for coming on and talking about it, man.
Yeah. It's so nice to talk to you, my dude.
It's fun.
Yeah. I can't wait for this episode to go up.
I love talking about Star Wars.
Yes. And I like listening to my friends talk about things that they like.
Me too.
Yeah.
Alright, so I guess that's my cue to pull up what the outro is. If I can find it. Alright. Alright, thanks to Sawsquarenoise on the Free Music Archive for the use of their song Tower Defense Ending. Potential sponsors, if you're Blue Apron, HelloFresh, small businesses, big businesses, Casper mattresses. NordVPN,
Honey.
ExpressVPN, Honey.
Wikibuy.
We got...
Can save you money.
Let's see. Honey, what else? What else? Oh god.
Shoot.
Audible, maybe? Well, Audible's owned by Amazon, so, yeah. Any sponsors that you want, our email is heynerdpodcast@gmail.com. Listeners, tell your friends, mortal enemies, secret children, twin that you maybe have a thing for the first 50 minutes of the movie. Tell your Wookiees, your pets,
your droids,
your friends,
your executives at Lucasfilm.
Your executives at Lucasfilm. Send us to Hayden Christensen.
Your script supervisors.
Just tell people about us. Email us fun stuff at heynerdpodcast@gmail.com, and check back next Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts for our next episode. And what's the next episode hint gonna be, Eli? Because I don't...
It's the spookiest of hours, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, man.
Next episode is spooky time.
Yeah, and the scariest thing is the unknown, so go ahead and resolve that fear by checking back next Wednesday. Your listeners, you're our only hope. I did a Star Wars joke!
You did a Star Wars joke!
Alright. 3, 2, 1.
Bye, nerd.
Bye, nerd. Maybe.
Alright.